intervals and maximums and minimums and that sort of thing. So here we have a graph that has been drawn for us. It is a function, and remember the x and the y axis are not really there. They're just there for reference, but it's not part of the graph. Actually, this blue curve is the only thing we're going to be looking at. All right. This first question says, is this function decreasing on the interval from -8 to -4? Now, because they said the interval, that means that these are both x values, because remember, intervals are named using the x values only. So that's not talking about the point -8, -4. It's talking about two different x values because of that word interval. So starting with an x value of -8, which would be right here, and ending at an x value of -4, which would be right here, is this function decreasing in that interval? Well, actually, the graph is going up between those two places. So your answer then would be no. It's actually increasing over that interval. Okay, our next one says, is this function decreasing on the interval from 2 to 5? Well, again, because they said this word interval, that's important. That's telling us that these are not points. This is not the point 2, 5. This is an x value of 2 and a y value of 2. So starting here where we have this x value of 2 and ending over here at an x value of 5, is this function decreasing on that interval? Is it going down between those two places? And in this case, yes, it absolutely is. Okay. Let me erase off these lines that I have here so that we can draw some more on here. Okay, our next question says, list the intervals on which f is decreasing. Well, before we can talk about decreasing, we need to look at places where it's changing. So let's just start looking at this graph. Remember, this goes on forever and ever and ever. So as we start from the left, the graph is going down until it hits this point right here. So I'm going to kind of section this graph off into parts. Then it turns around and it goes up until it reaches this point. And then it turns around and it goes down until it reaches this point. And then it turns around and it goes up until we're here. And then it turns around and goes down again to this area. And then it goes up for the remainder of the graph. Well, it looks like that this is what sections off the increasing from the decreasing. So this one says, list the intervals on which f is decreasing or going down. Well, at this part of the graph, it's going down, starting over here at -infinity and going all the way over to an x value of -8. Remember, we name intervals using the x values only. Then it turns around, it goes up. That's increasing. We want decreasing. Then it goes back down again, so starting at an x value of -2, stopping at an x value of 0. So from -2 to 0, it is also decreasing. Then it turns around and it's increasing, and then it's decreasing starting at 2 and ending at 5. So starting at 2 and ending at 5. Now remember, I put these all in parentheses. I'm just going to put a comma between each one. We put those in parentheses because intervals always get parentheses, never brackets.